family because they back him up with everything he does, and it was great to meet his daughters and his wife and all the lovely Rahman family. So let's hear it for them too. And also, I want to thank all of you guys who are so active. I think Senator Ford is still with us. I know
he's back there.
There he goes right there. All right. And Dewey McClain, our leader over here in the Labor Council, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the DNC committee woman, Nakima Williams over here, she got her family with her. And literally all of you, some of you guys, if you have or are thinking about running for office in the near future, or you just recently did, please stand up if you would. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you guys for running. Thank you for thinking about running. If good people don't run, we're not going to have good people. Simple as that. So we need you to step up. Putting your name on a lawn sign is an act of faith. Absolutely. It's a daring act. It's a high wire performance. And when you guys who are active in our Democratic Party at the county level, at the state level, and the national level, it is tremendously important to these folks who do that. And so I think for you guys who are running or thinking about running, give a hand to our Democratic grassroots who keep us all afloat. Can we do that?
Yeah.
So the reason that I'm running for the chair of the DNC is because I believe that the Democratic Party must be that vehicle for working people to express their hopes, their dreams, and their aspirations. The Democratic Party should be that party, that entity that fights for the working people of our country. I think about my good friend Sheikh, who now he's a successful restaurateur. But when he got to the United States, he was busting suds in a restaurant. And he did that for years, and it took him 14 years to get his degree. But he worked and he worked and he worked, and he put the time and energy in. But because our country is a land of opportunity, he was able to meet his dream of not just being a leader in our community, but owning restaurants that help serve him and his family. But you can tell that same story for everybody in this room, whether you're white or black, Latino, Asian, whether you're male or female, straight, gay, whether you were born here or you immigrated here, no matter who you are, our country should always be a place where there is a ladder up if you're willing to climb it. And so that's what it's about. And I'm going to tell you, I think that there's a lot of folks who perceive our country as not the kind of instrument that I talk about right now. And if I'm wrong, please free me from that. But you don't lose 935 seats since 2008, and everything is fine, right? You don't get down to, you don't lose all these governors, and everything is just dandy. In 2014, we had the smallest congressional House caucus that we had since Truman. We gotta look at the signs, right? And recognize that we have the right values, we got the right philosophy, we're standing for the people. They are the money, we are the many. And so we gotta have the many on our side. So let me tell you, every now and again, you can have the best car in the world. If you don't fix the belts, you don't fix the hoses, you don't change the spark plugs, you don't get new tires, you don't replace them pads on the brakes, maybe you need a new paint job and maybe you gotta fix that cracked window. The Democratic Party needs to refurbish. It needs rejuvenation. It needs to be strengthened. We've got to lift up the labor voice in the Democratic Party and be proud to talk about the right to bargain collectively and organize. We got to stand up for the small business person. What chance does a small restaurant owner have against some national chain if the Democratic Party is not willing to fight for them to get access to what they need to make their dream come true? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. We got to be the ones who believe that having a good, solid retirement is what we got to be able to do. Look, who's going to stand for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid if we don't? Every year they're figuring out how to privatize it, right? And if they privatize it like they want to, You know what would happen in 2008 when we had the foreclosure crisis if they would have privatized Social Security? The one little thing that folks can depend on, that would have been wiped out too. What I'm saying is the Democratic Party doesn't say our young people getting out of high school, they're going to have a good apprenticeship program to go to. They're going to have a good job training program to go to so they can have a real career. Or if they want to go to college, it's going to be affordable. Or if they want to go to the military, when they get out from serving their country, we're going to have real veteran services. Then who's going to do it? It certainly isn't going to be these guys. You look at this cabinet. You know, we used to say, seriously, oh, that guy, he's controlled by the billionaires. Now this cabinet is the billionaire. I mean, they done cut out the middleman altogether.
Yeah.
They got the richest, wealthiest cabinet. And let me tell you, those people on that cabinet, they don't know what it's like, Sheikh, to try to struggle to get a small business loan. I mean, you know, Romney, remember, he said, Trump. Oh, I just got a small loan of $14 million from my dad. Really? Interesting. You see what I'm saying? We are the best hope for the American people. The Democratic Party is not for the Democratic people, the Democrats. It is for the American people.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Yes.
That's what we're for. We are fighting not for a party, but for what is right, for opportunity, for justice, and inclusion. And it's not just a matter of economic empowerment, though that is the core. That's what unites us all colors, all cultures, all faiths. It's also the fact that, yes, some of us we come from backgrounds where we just didn't have the same kind of shot as other people, and the Democratic Party has to be a party that says we really do believe in equal protection under the law and inclusion for everybody. And that might mean race and gender and stuff like this, but it also might mean that you from way out in the country, right? And for where you're from, there ain't no roads, there's no schools, and you have been excluded, even though you may have white skin, just because you didn't have the shot, because you live way out there and we're not right in that city where all the services were. We gotta be the party of solidarity, the party of unity, the party of inclusion. Now that's what it's about. Now how do we get back there? First, we have got to re-tie ourselves to the grassroots.
Yes, we do.
That's what we got to do. We got to reconnect ourselves to the grassroots, and the DNC needs to push resources down. We got to push resources to the place closest to the voter. So money, data, technology, training needs to be dispersed to the grassroots. The DNC, every person who works at the DNC ought to see themselves as working for the grassroots activists. And I'm telling you right now, if I'm the DNC chair and I hear from you that people in Washington are acting in an arrogant, unresponsive way, they won't be there long. We know who we work for, and we work for you. And we are going to prove it to you daily by being responsive and connected and there for you. That's my pledge to you. Now, people have said the DNC chair needs to be full-time. I agree. I didn't always agree, I'm going to be honest with you. And by the way, that's another thing. I'm going to tell you the truth no matter what. Here's the reality. Because the prior chair was in Congress and the DNC chair, I thought, well, I can do the same thing. I'm a highly energetic guy, and I know I can work, man. Everybody who knows me knows that. But I can't, after talking to so many of you, it became very clear to me that the grassroots of this party wants a chair that does nothing but focus on building them. And you know what? I make that pledge, I'm all in. And so you can count on me to take that role. I just got reelected with 70% of the vote. But I'm gonna tell you this, even though I love my district, even though it's an honor to serve them, I will leave that job because what good does it do to people in my district in Minnesota to have me there with 70% of the vote, but everything else is red. I'm deep in the minority, can't pass any laws to help them. I'm like, well, look, why don't I go help get some Democrats elected all over the country? That's what I'm willing to do. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing. And that's why I made the decision that I made. But I want you to know, you don't leave a great job like being the congressman for the 5th District of Minnesota lightly. And I just want to tell you that it was a big decision, but I decided that it was the right thing to do. and I've made that pledge. And I'm not gonna leave that job just to take this one and not do anything. I'm coming in here to get busy. I wanna know, are you guys ready to get busy too?
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole lot of work, and no chair of the DNC or state party chair or county chair or vice chair can do it alone. This is gonna take all of us. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yep.
And if all of us will pitch in, we can change this thing around, and we will look back at this moment and say, this is where we began to really fight, really organize, and be in unity. Let me say this about unity. I did start out supporting Bernie Sanders. Me and Bernie had a number of bills that we carried together, and he was a good friend. He helped found the Progressive Caucus, of which I am the chair now, and so it was natural in many ways. Bernie and I worked together on the Fight for 15. He and I carried a bill called In Polluter Welfare Act. What that law said is ExxonMobil making plenty of money, more money than anybody else. Why is the American taxpayer giving them massive subsidies? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So In Polluter Welfare Act, so we both worked on that. We also worked on a bill that said that since the American people stepped up and bailed out Wall Street, small transactions tax, and helps pay for everything from college education to reinvestment in our infrastructure. I mean, we shouldn't have to be not enough money for Meals on Wheels. We shouldn't be broke when it comes to investing in research to figure out how to take care of your mom's Parkinson's or her ALS or her Alzheimer's. But we don't even have enough money to do the research because we cut taxes so low. What if Wall Street said, okay, you know, y'all have taken care of us, we're gonna take care of you? Just seems fair to me. I don't know what you think. So my point is Bernie and I carry these bills, but I want you to know that I also had a bill with Hillary Clinton one time, and let me tell you how it went down. I have always worked hard on housing, and I really think housing is so key. I mean, think about raising a family without a bowl. Now think about, that doesn't make sense. Think about making a cake without a bowl. The eggs running over here, flour's running over there, milk's running over there. Now think about raising a family with no home, right? It's the same concept. We gotta have a home to raise a family in so that they can be successful, be healthy, and kids can thrive. So I'm into housing, and I had a bill that said, look, some of y'all who've worked on lead before will follow me on this, but let me tell you, lead poisoning is very damaging to a small child. And if the intervention, the medical intervention doesn't happen early, that kid can have permanent damage. Well, under the HUD regulations, the intervention didn't happen until 15 micrograms per deciliter. You guys here with the Center for Disease Control right here in Atlanta, they say that kid's brain is being damaged at 5 micrograms per deciliter, maybe no smaller than that. So I put a bill in to say that HUD needed to intervene at 5. And then one day I got a call, and it was from somebody who asked me, hey, who's your Senate author? I said, I don't have one. The person said, you got one now. That person was Hillary Rodham Clinton. And so I just want to say to you, there was never a moment when I didn't feel that she was a great candidate. And I'm telling you now that I was eager and happy to support her once the primary ended. And I was very pleased that she was respectful, honorable, and did a lot of good things for the folks who supported Bernie. In fact, I was on the platform drafting committee, and together we wrote the best platform the Democratic Party has ever seen. And Hillary Clinton was key to that. So we are together. We are unified. We are not going to have no circular firing squad, y'all. We're not going to have recrimination and blame. We're going to ask ourselves, what can we do together? How can we work together so that 2018 is a banner year for Democrats and for the American people? That's where it's at, right? If we take the House back and we take state houses back, we can do a whole lot of good, you know what I mean? And we got to do it. Like, for example, in North Carolina, you see what they're trying to do right now. Trying to rig the thing so the governor, we win the election for governor, and they're trying to thwart the results because they are sore losers. We cannot stop this, and if I'm DNC chair, you will see me leading from the front, fighting this kind of thing. Same thing in Ohio, where Kasich is trying to interfere with the lawful right of women to choose. I think this is disgusting and wrong, but we are going to be fighting. We're not going to leave you wondering what's next. We're going to be at the front of the van with you. So let me just say that we need unity. We needed fight in DNC, and let me just tell you why me, okay? Because you might think, yeah, that sounds good, but how come you? Here's why. Because if the DNC chair's job is to get Democrats elected, that's the job, right?
Right.
There's nobody else running who has a record of getting Democrats elected besides me. I have gotten myself elected 8 times in a row. And I've gotten Democrats elected all over the state of Minnesota and all over the country. In Minnesota, there's no statewide office holder that's not a Democrat. All of them are, 100%. And when you look at the margin of victory, it is in my district. Now, I'm not taking all the credit for it because I'm going to tell you what we do. I call everybody who's a state legislator, everybody who's a party leader, and we say, hey, look, y'all, we got to turn out the vote, and we need to get 30 brand new voters per month per precinct. And we're going to ask you every month what's your count. And we do that, and we set numerical goals. And so for example, last election, I said we got to get 262,000. We ended up with 250, so we didn't hit our goal. But if we hadn't hit a goal at all, if I would have stayed home, I still would have won my district. But then we would have lost the state of Minnesota. I outperformed the Democratic average by about 60,000 votes. And Trump only lost by 42,000. So we helped win the whole state together because we worked together and we turned out the vote. Now, when I started as a member of Congress, my district, the 5th Congressional District of Minnesota, had the lowest turnout of any congressional district in the state of Minnesota. Now it has the highest and consistently has the highest. Why? Because we think about turning out the vote by first we turn on during the off years. Some of y'all have heard me say that. So in 2015, in the summer months, we had 9,000 conversations with voters. It took 30,000 attempts to get those 9,000 conversations, but we turned on during the off year. I'm only telling you that month because those are the months when we got solid numbers. But we cleaned up the data. We had conversations. We asked people what they wanted. We asked them what they thought was important. And as a result, when we kept campaigning through the year and when election day came, we were able to stay in a wave year, not lose any of our congressional seats, and return every statewide office holder. So what I'm telling you is, if turning out the vote is the job, I turn out the vote. And I believe that is exactly what we need. If you look at the fact that 90 million people registered and eligible to vote in this country did not vote, we got plenty of upside. Plenty of upside. But here's how the Democratic Party has been campaigning. If you're a so-called red state, we put you over there. If you're a so-called blue state, we put you over there. Then we go to the so-called swing states and talk to the likely voter. Who's that? People who voted in the last election, and then that's who we talk to. We're leaving off the table a whole lot of folks, y'all. But we've got to have a campaign that talks to everybody. See, elections are not only about winning elections. Elections are about engaging with Americans and it's giving them their power to select the leaders of their choice. You see the difference that I'm talking about? It's not just about winning the election. It is about winning the election, but it's also about going to Miss McGillicuddy and saying, you know, Miss McGillicuddy, we respect you, we honor you, and it's going to be election time. What are your concerns? Can we give you a ride to the polls? And she get in that car, she goes to that polls, she makes her choice, and she has just become an empowered person, supercharged human being. And that is something that puts a little bit extra in her step because she has made a contribution to this democracy at that point. And it's just part of the overall connectivity of community that we've got to rebuild in this country. So I just want you all to know that I'm running for DNC chair. I really do need your help. I'd like your help. And if you are a member of the DNC, I'd like you to vote for me. And if you're not, I'd like you to encourage folks to vote for me. And when I become the chair of the DNC, all the folks who are also running, I will work carefully with them because we are all friends. None of us this ain't no, we don't like each other kind of thing. Every one of them, we're tight, we're good, and we need them. That's why you're not gonna hear me say an ill word about none of them, because they're all friends of mine, and at the end of this election, I'm gonna be able to look them all in the eye and say, I've done you no wrong. Because how you gonna model democratic unity, but you don't engage in it? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So my point is that, I'm running hard. I'm going to Texas tomorrow to campaign. Last week I was in Arkansas, I was in Tennessee, then went to Ohio. We are running hard because we think this really, really matters. We think it really matters that we take action on climate and not turn it over to a guy at the EPA, Pruitt, who doesn't even believe in climate change. I'm gonna tell you, Trump said he was gonna have a cabinet with really top people. Look, if he gave Ben Carson a job to just join trends, then maybe he's qualified for that. He admits he knows absolutely nothing about housing. Oh, and what about the lady who was gonna be in charge of education and is against public education? Betsy DeVoe. She's for privatizing it. I mean, all of these people are opposed to the core mission of the agency they're selected to run. But you know what? In 2 years, we can turn it around. We can turn it around, but we all have to do everything we can. This is not a one-person job, this is a team job. And so I just want to say to you all that I have some, hey, Nick, where's our stuff?
Keith Ellison, Keith for DNC.com.
Okay.
See the full platform.
All right, we don't have any written ones out?
We'll get it out to the state party.
Okay, right, so we must have passed them out or something, but I'm telling you, we want you to see the platform. It's thought out, it's written out, it's available for you. And I'm just gonna conclude my remarks right now and just say to everyone assembled, I am incredibly grateful to you for coming here tonight and giving me a moment to talk about the future of our country, the future of the Democratic Party. I really believe that as the grassroots is the most important thing, and you all empowered, strengthened, giving your ideas, offering your creativity is how we win. We need everybody. We can't spare nobody. We got to be the party that values all of its people. And that starts with meetings like this. What you're seeing me doing now, coming around the country, well, what you're going to see me doing if I'm elected chair. Following your lead, but backing you up, with you all the time. So that's how we're going to win. So with that, I'm just going to zip it, and maybe we answer a few questions. What do y'all think? All right.
Good.
So if anybody ever goes on Reddit, they got an AMA, Ask Me Anything. This is that. Ask me anything. If you got a question, I'll be happy to answer it, and I'll try to make it quick. Yep.
How's the Democratic Party going to address the decline in the percentage of the white vote we continue to sustain both at the national level and here in the state of Georgia? It's a real issue too.
We're going to go talk to white working people. We're going to go talk to them. We're not going to say you're a rural red state. We don't think you are listening to us, and so we're not going to talk to you. We're going to go to the VFW. We're going to go to the Union Hall. We're going to go to the hair shop. We're going to go where the people are, and you're going to lead us there. And I see your hand. And I'm going, and that's what we're going to do. Because here's the thing. I'm glad you said, how do we regain the white working class? This is important. But at the end of the day, all of us have to care about all of us, right? And white working class is a part of our party, and we got to go get them. Roosevelt got the vote of the white working class. We can get it too, but we've got to go get it. And that means, so how come white working class people vote for increasing the minimum wage in Arkansas and in Florida and in Alaska, but then they don't vote for Democrats who are the ones who are supposed to be fighting for their wage to go up? Because there's a disconnect. So we got to go to them, we got to talk to them, and we got to make the case. And I'm just going to say this. There's a lot of pain among rural, non-college white people. And let me just tell you, this opioid thing, It's because people feel anxious, they feel afraid, they don't know when the plant's gonna close down. They hoped that their kids would be able to meet their dreams, but they're now frustrated that maybe that's not gonna happen. They got $3,000, they're 55 years old with $3,000 in the bank for retirement. And maybe all they got is Social Security. That will make anybody shook up. And so we're gonna talk to them, we're gonna go to them and deliver the message with your leadership. What do you think?
Well, I can't argue with going to them, but we gotta have a message that resonates.
Right.
What that message is key.
Well, how about this? So that plant, we are going to be fighting, we're going to put a tax policy, industrial policy, investment to make sure that we are investing in this country. Look, man, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, there's $3 trillion worth of unmet maintenance needs. If you look at the tax folks, there's at least $3 trillion parked offshore because of the deferral tax laws. If we voted to end deferral and put the money into our infrastructure, we can put everybody back to work who wants to work. Now, don't go for this Trump thing because this is sort of a tax game where we might not end up with anything, but they'll have massive tax cuts because they don't ever want to pay no taxes. But my point is that a real investment program is what we've got to have. That message will resonate. But you know what? We also got to convince them that we mean it, and we've got to go to them. And we're not going to get them all because people are cynical, man. But we'll get some, and as we show we improved, then we'll get more. But I'm telling you, there are communities that we just don't talk to them. We're letting the other side just have a free shot at these folks, and they're listening to all this hate radio all week long. And you know what I mean? We've got to compete, and we're not competing. So, thank you for that question. Yep, you're up next.
I just want to say, and he knows, Steve knows what we went through in my district because it was redistricted, and I got some very high propensity Republicans in Loganville and in Bethlehem. And what we did was we started after July the 4th, and we actually went and asked them for their vote. We talked to them about issues that we thought they were interested in. And we cut that vote deficit from 2000 where I lost by only 222 votes. So it matters that you talk to them, you go to the door and you knock and ask. If you don't ask, you're not going to get it, and you're going to always think that it's a Democrat-Republican fight. It's a people fight.
Let me tell you, man, a lot of white rural working folks went Obama, Trump. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, people used to work for an auto plant making $22 an hour. You can sustain a family on $22 an hour. That plant leaves, and then there's an Amazon plant that pays $13 an hour. You can't hardly sustain a family on $13 an hour. So now what does that do if you are in your 40s and 50s? You're not like a kid. You know what I mean? You may own this house. You got to beat that mortgage. I mean, it'll keep you up at night, And, for some folks, the economic situation is so dire, you'll either take drugs or you sell them or something. You know what I mean? So we got a meth problem, so we got an opioid problem, and people are literally dying every day because of it.
And
We've
more
got
children in foster care.
more kids in foster care. We are the ones who's supposed to be compassionate and care about people. Where's Senator Ford at? Am I right about this, Senator?
You're absolutely
We gotta
right.
care.
Absolutely.
And we don't care what color our people are. They come in all colors. We stand for them all. Who's next? Yes, ma'am. Yes, doctor.
I'm not a doctor.
You're an epidemiologist.
Yeah, but I'm not a doctor. Just have a bunch of master's degrees.
All right.
I was a field organizer, and I found that we had a number of people, a lot of people in Gwinnett County who are registered to vote who do not know that they're registered to vote. How can the DNC help us? I mean, I would go from door to door and find unregistered people who did not know that they were registered to vote and wanted to vote and said, oh, I'm going to go tell my friends, They were so excited when they found out that they were on the list. How can you help us tell these people that they're registered to vote?
Well, so here's first of all, we got to have a plan that's what we're gonna do. That's the first thing. Setting voter turnout as an intentional thing we're gonna do is the first step toward doing what you're saying. What is the next step? Well, the state party program that allows, gives us money where we send money to state parties can be devoted to people who will train and go and work and help knock the doors and do canvassing in the off years, clean up the data. We gotta get bodies on the door. That means volunteers, but you know, volunteers work best when things are organized and tight. That means you gotta pay somebody to organize them, and that is about the DNC making a commitment. It's also about helping state parties and county parties raise some of their own money. Now, that's development skills. Working on the website, working on the mail program, or helping with the holiday party where we say, we're gonna raise some money tonight. You know, in my view, every county party ought to have 3 things that they try to do every year, at least, bare minimum. There ought to be a holiday party, raise some money, and you know, do like an auction, something, raise some money. There ought to be a summer picnic, also try to raise some money, and there ought to be a Labor Day picnic. Those 3 things ought to happen in every single county in the United States. And if we do and y'all probably all do them. But my point is, there's a lot of places where they don't happen. We're not visible at all. But every time we get together, we should be trying to pass the hat to make sure we can pay for the organizers on that campus. So that's what we got to do. We got to get resources, and we got to use them in an intentional way. And then we got to use social media to tell people, hey, you know, are you registered to vote? You can call here to check. You know, just using social media to just get the word out does a lot of good. But that, again, takes somebody who understands it. Yep.
We need the names of big donors, that's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
We need some names, we need some help getting those names.
And I'm gonna tell you something, Georgia has big donors. They just need to keep the
I know
money.
who they are.
Some of the money needs to stay in Georgia. I tell you,
Right.
Other folk fly in here, have a big event at a fancy house, and then get back on the plane and get back with the loot, take the loot with them. And you know, some of that money needs to stay in this state. I think you guys, you got 47% of the vote this time in the presidential? Let me tell you, that's huge. Here's another thing. The Democratic Party, the DNC, needs to be the ongoing, everyday, day in, day out party for the rank and file of the Democratic Party. It cannot be this empty vessel we pour a presidential campaign into every 4 years, and then when it's over, everybody's left high and dry. We gotta have some sustenance and some durability all the time. I was talking to my friend, and we both agreed. We need inspiration, and we need to point out to people how they're being treated unfairly by the other
You
side.
said a lot nicer than I did.
But we also need to build infrastructure so that we don't win or lose based on the charisma of the candidate or the outrageousness of the opponent. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about that steady as she goes. See, the thing is, there's a lot of candidates who are not the greatest speakers in the world, but they're great candidates, and you know they would be awesome in office. Am I right about that? Yes. People who might not be able to drop the biggest stem winder ever, you know, but they're awesome. You know, they're careful. They're disciplined. They're compassionate. They would be awesome public servants. We have to create a party that can get them elected too. It can't all depend upon having, you know, like some guy who's like a civil rights icon who was the greatest speaker around. You know what I mean? Like, of course, John Lewis can get elected because he's got all these gifts. But my point is, what about that policy wonk who's dedicated, sincere, and is just tremendous, but you know, they're just not this awesome speaker. You know what I mean? We need a kind of party that can get them in office. Am I making any sense to anybody?
Yes.
You know, yeah. So because we need them, you know. Otherwise, you just get a bunch of people who love to hear themselves talk. I'm looking for hands. Yep.
Okay. To play on your part about messaging.
Yeah.
Okay, which you know that I like.
I know that.
Okay, you were talking about infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems, you know, and I feel like one of the problems that we have is getting our message out there. You know, we can go knock on all the doors in the world, but if we don't have anything to say, then they're not going to listen to us. And so I think that's the most important. Remember, we tried to get, you know, President Obama tried to get infrastructure money back when we had this just infinitesimal tax rate, and the Republicans shot it down.
Right.
And then so now Trump ran on infrastructure.
Right.
So how can we talk to people to let them know, hey folks, you know, that we tried that and they shot it down? You know, we've got to figure out a way to let people know what we are doing, because they're so much better at it. They steal what we say and they win on. I cannot believe Labor people voted for Trump. I just can't believe it.
Tell me your name again, I'm sorry.
Jay.
So Jay, I want you to read a book that you may not want to read, but I'm gonna recommend it anyway.
Frank
It's
Luntz.
called Give Us.
Oh, no.
It's called Give Us Liberty. It's by Dick Armey.
Okay.
In this book, a right-wing Tea Party guy,
Uh-huh.
all he does is describe how he stole civil rights era tactics and employed them into the Tea Party. The stuff they're doing is what we used to do, but we don't do it anymore. The problem with Democrats today is that we're right. Now that sounds weird, doesn't it?
Can we say correct instead of right?
Yeah.
Correct. is that we have the right positions, right? So why is that a weakness? Because here's why. Because we think that that's sufficient to win an election. And the right wing, the far right wing, they say, we know that our policies are only going to benefit maybe the top 1%, but we still got to win elections. How do we do it? Well, we got to divide them, we got to distract them, we got to discourage them, and so they do all of those things, and they do them pretty well because they need to. And so, but us,
Your vote don't count.
because we do stand for equality for all people, we stand for prosperity for working families, we stand for environmental stewardship, which are all the good things to be about. We just figure that that's going to just win the day. It's not going to just win the day. We've got to have a really tight, highly energetic, efficient program, and that is how we're going to get it. Now, if I'm DNC chair, we will have at least one monthly call for the whole 447 DNC members. We will have at least one live stream for the Democratic base all over the country. I did a live stream with Bernie Wednesday night. I think well over 100,000 people tuned in. It was phenomenal. Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the teachers union, who was a Hillary person, and Bernie and me and Hilda Solis, who's the former labor secretary. And let me tell you, folks turned in. It was great. So, and then we're gonna have at least one regional call, so we can get a little bit more specific about the South, the Northeast, the West, the Mountain West, so we can focus. So we're gonna communicate a lot more, because and the information is gonna flow two ways. It ain't gonna be, here is what's going on. No, it's gonna be two ways. And what are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about money. We're gonna talk about talking points. We're gonna talk about data sharing. We're gonna give you a report on what's going on. You're gonna give us a report on what's going on. And we're gonna be in communication, much more so than we are now. So that is part of the structural changes we need, because I would imagine that a lot of y'all don't feel that close to the DNC. Am I wrong? Am I right? Right. So we're gonna change that.
Correct.
Change coming.
So let's come over here. Anybody on yes ma'am.
I kind of like maybe a 3 or 4 part question, so I was kind of piggybacking and springboarding from a question that was asked earlier. I just want to give a response to. It's not a question. In terms of making sure everyone votes, knows who that they're registered to vote. As the African American Caucus Chair, one thing we promote is get on the Secretary's of State's website, look at MVP, My Voter page.
All right.
We need to encourage everybody to have that printout, so they can go on, they'll find their state representative, their Senate, and that's one thing that we need to do. The other thing is, I think the DNC needs to, the chair needs to be meeting in states with all county chairs.
Yep, I agree.
A county chair convention with
I
the
agree.
DNC chair.
I agree.
Because if we don't revitalize these county parties, the DNC came down a couple, I guess it was year before last, and they asked what they could do. And I said to send one agenda item to all county parties, so we can be working on one thing.
Got it.
And that had to be a discussion. To me, that was like maybe a no-brainer. We need to be working in concert, at least on one thing to demonstrate unity, and that was never done. The other thing is, with the donors, we need to get a list, this is data, of all the major donors like Home Depot,
Yeah.
Coca-Cola. Oh, they donate to both parties, but the difference is so great.
Yeah.
So we need to put down how much they give the Republican Party, how much they give the Democratic Party, and we need to be asking questions. Why do we only get this percentage? And that's something we could get state by state.
Yeah.
AT&T, all of, I've kind of been doing that on my own.
Nick, could you make notes on what she said? Because I might lose some of that. Those are all great ideas.
Okay, the other thing is the Electoral College meets Monday here
Yep.
at 9 o'clock at the Capitol. I think we need to be there. I think just your presence sometimes makes a strong statement.
Yep.
If we just gather there in large numbers, and I know if this is taking place nationally, because I know by January the 6th, they all have to have their vote in. But just educating people about this college and what we want to do. How we know that the popular vote did not get the vote for our candidate. Now, what do you say to African American males? Because I spent so many weeks and they kept telling me my vote doesn't count, my vote doesn't count. Now what do we say?
Well, here's the thing. The Electoral College is a ridiculous, absurd institution. No other country has anything like this that I'm aware of. And basically, it was put in place so that small states, and Georgia's not a small state, could have as much power as a larger state. And as a result, we got this mess that we have right here. We've got the popular vote should win. But in the short term, I mean, look, there's 270 some people, 2.7 million people who didn't count. So it's not just black men, who are concerned. We all, as a nation, need to be, one, working on, I think we should I love the movement to get rid of the Electoral College.
Yes.
That's not gonna happen in the short term, but it's just not a good institution. And I know people wanna defend it. I think it's horrible, and we should get rid of it. But let me just say this about the vote. Every single state legislature really should have a bill in place where if you're out, you can vote, right? This idea, like Florida has lifetime ban on voting, this should be gotten rid of. And I'm telling you, in Minnesota, they thought that this was gonna be something that's gonna help African-American men. It happens at 2/3, going back to your point, 2/3 of all the people with felonies live in outstate Minnesota. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not what we think is something that's gonna help one group, actually helps a whole lot of people. And so I really believe we have got to make voting access a very focused thing, and we need to make sure that everybody can vote. We gotta restore the vote to everybody. And I hope that the DNC can encourage, we can't make them do it, but I hope we encourage every single state to say if you're out, you can vote. Do you know in Maine and Vermont, you never lose your right to vote? Never. And somehow Maine and Vermont are doing fine. Florida, if you didn't have a lifetime ban on voting, Florida would have went the other way. So think about that. So thank you for your points, man. We took notes and really agree that your points are right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we also have to do this. I mean, when the religious right took their thing over back in the 80s,
Yep.
It just began to grow. Now it became the thing is we're equivalent to devils, and Obama said it today in his speech that it's when 37% of the Republican Party like Russians more than they do Democrats, we have a serious problem where we need to get down in the dirt and we need to start talking to the people. We had an enormous amount of people who had never voted in their life who turned out to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so, how do we switch that? How do we get that stigma off of us who made that we're demonized?
It goes back, is it Steve? It goes back to what Steve was saying. We gotta go talk to our neighbors. We gotta talk, we can't avoid it. Now, don't expect to go get them all in one election season. But we gotta start the conversation. Some of them are willing to talk to Democrats, right?
Right.
But we've gotta start that conversation. Nowadays, man, if you're a conservative Republican, you probably listen to hate radio all week. You listen to Fox. We're too separated. we need to be the ones to drive the conversation about what is working for you, what's not working for you. And absolutely, we gotta say that these folks are our fellow Americans. I mean, and we get divided over stuff that we shouldn't get divided over, like the whole gun thing. Who in this room either has a gun rack in their house, or their father, or their parents did, or their grandparents did? My point is, we shouldn't fall out over stuff like this. We can understand each other's point of view, but we're gonna be the ones gonna have to drive that dialogue. I do believe that you shouldn't have military-style weapons, and when you got mass shootings, it don't make no sense. But you know what? If people think that they're afraid that their gun's gonna be taken away, let's at least start talking to them about their fears and saying, look, you know, you don't want your kid to be shot up at a school one day, do you? We can find a way to talk, but we've gotta have that conversation. We cannot be afraid to have that conversation. And I'm telling you, we can win it back slowly if we go to the grassroots, if we run for local office, if we build from the grassroots, if we prioritize voter turnout. We're gonna wake up one day winning elections back. Remember, we've lost 935 state house seats since 2008. Time to build it back. And